Hello everyone, to all the RBI Grade B aspirants out there preparing for their phase 2. If you are wondering how was EduTap's performance in the previous paper, which was 2025, then this here is for you. We are here to show you the EduTap report card specifically targeting the RBI Grade B Phase 2 exam, the FM paper, which is finance and management for you. What we are going to see is if the questions which came in 2025 for the FM paper were these something which we have covered in our EduTap course or not. So let us move forward and we'll be starting with the management component basically. So now the management component is the easier of the two. In the FM paper, we have finance and management, two components, of which management is easier. It's more theoretical in nature and generally straightforward questions come. Now, an ideal general trend used to be that from management, out of the total 100 marks, roughly 45 to 50 marks would come. But in 2025, there was an exception. The number of questions for management was very low. Only around 13 to 14 questions came. So the marks weightage for management was pretty low. Finance had more questions in 2025. Now, this was an exception for 25. It might not be the same thing for 26. 26 may the trend might be different. But there is nothing we can say definitely for the moment yet. So when we talk about management, let us begin with the objective question 2 marker. So basically objective question with a paragraph is given. This paragraph is specifically from the topic of ethics asking about an ethical theory. And the answer of this is ethical relativism, option C. Now, the topic of ethical relativism, this has been covered in our EduTap course. It's there in the gold course, right? And this is something you can find in the concept notes where what is ethical relativism has been explained very clearly with an example. Now, the next question from the paragraph is asking about code of ethics. And the answer for this is option B, right? Now, code of ethics, this has also been covered in our gold course under the concept notes in the topic of ethics, wherein we have clearly written what exactly is a code of ethics and how it helps, in an organization maintain long-term security and integrity. So this was very well covered. The next passage was related to your management theories, the schools of management. Now, the answer for this question is nothing but scientific management theory, and the scientific management theory has been very, very comprehensively covered in our gold course under the concept notes, chapter being General Management Part 1. So, all the schools of management have been covered, and therein the scientific management approach by F.W. Taylor has been very well and clearly comprehensively explained, including its various different techniques and everything. The next question is again from the schools of management. The answer for this was Henry Fayol, option C. Now, when we talk about Henry Fayol, has this been covered? Answer is yes again. The principles of management as per Fayol, what was his theory, right? All of this has been comprehensively covered in our gold course under the concept notes of GM Part 1. The next question is related to the systems theory of management, and it's asking about a feature. So, what was one of the features of systems theory of management? It is that it is an open system. Now, when we mention an open system of systems theory of management, this was something which was again mentioned and covered in your concept notes. So, when we talk about the features, if you have a look here, it has been very clearly said that there are independent subsystems, and therefore we talk about the entire concept of it being an open system. So, this has been covered in the concept notes. Now, let us move on to the one marker objective questions. Very straightforward question. It's talking about the type of communication wherein we are sending the messages to the upper management. This is nothing but your upward communication. Answer is option B, for which this has been covered in your concept notes in terms of the explanation of what exactly is upward communication with examples and scenarios wherein you do upward communication. The next question is related to an ethical theory. So we are again jumping back to ethics, and a statement is given which ethical theory is universal, fixed, and unchanging. This is nothing but ethical absolutism, and the same has been mentioned and covered in your gold course under the concept notes. So, what are absolute principles? It's been there. Then the next question is asking about a theory which explains people's attitudes, explain their motivation. So, this is talking about a sort of a motivation theory. Now, the answer for this question was option B, Portal and Lawler model. Now, this was a model which we have not covered in our EduTap course for the previous year, right? So, this one question was not covered, Portal and Lawler model. Now, that was all in terms of the objective questions. So, we can see that the number of questions from management have been pretty less in 2025. Now, as I said, this might not be the same for 26, but there is nothing we can say definitely. It's based on the exam setter, right? Now, let us move on to the descriptive questions. In the descriptive question, also, we saw the same trend. Only two descriptive questions were asked in 25. So, our, number of questions were again less. What were the two questions? First question was related to why do employees resist change and a systematic approach for change. So basically here is the model answer for this descriptive question, wherein what we are doing is, you know, explaining what is change followed by the resistance and then a systematic approach. Now as we can see, the question is very straightforward. It is a very direct question, straightforward question from the topic itself, and that is the trend for management questions. Management में the questions are not twisted, they come straight away from the topic, making it them easy to answer and very scoring in nature. So was this covered in our EduTap course? It was. Wherein was it covered? In the concept notes from the chapter of organizational change and reinforcement. So, if we can see, we have very clearly covered what is resistance to change and given the factors for the same. So, this forms the first part of the descriptive answer. And we have also covered a process of plan change, which is nothing but the systematic process you are supposed to undertake. So, therefore, the entire answer was straight away from the theory. And we have covered this, based on which you have to just frame your descriptive answer. So, therefore, this question was also covered. And the final question was, what is the advantage of nonverbal communication? So, this is from the topic of communication. Now, here is our model answer, right? As we can see, it's a straightforward question. Okay, what is the advantage? So, all you have to do is just mention some advantages and the usages. Now, this is also something which have been covered in our EduTap course. Question is very easy in nature, right? And this has been covered in our concept notes of communication, wherein we have said what is nonverbal communication. We have also given names of certain theorists, for the same. And we have written the types of nonverbal communication. Now, once we know the types of nonverbal communication, it is very easy to have their usage known in the organization for various different tasks. So, straightforward from the theory, all the you have to do in terms of the descriptive answer was just give some examples. So, therefore, this too has been covered in terms of our you know course. And with this, we have seen all the questions which came for the management component in 2025, of which what did we see? That most things were comprehensively covered. There was just one question which was out of the blue. But, that is not a thing to be concerned about because it's totally fine, right? Now, what we are going to be moving on to is the finance component. And for the finance component, I would like to call in Jaskaran sir, and he would take over and explain you what is the finance component all about. Thank you all.
Now let us move on to the next component, which is finance, and let us see that what were the questions that we were able to target as a part of it. So question number one, as you can see it over here, it was asked in the form of passage. You had to read this lengthy passage, and based on that you had to answer the questions. So if you read question number one passage, it basically says that to address the need for a long-term capital provider with a comprehensive cross-sectoral mandate, unlike the niche-focused mandates for the other DFIs, the Dash was established as an infrastructure-focused development financial institution, and the Dash accorded it the status of All India Financial Institution on 8th of March 2022, making it the fifth AIFI. Now, from here onwards, let us try to read question number one and let us see if that whether we are able to answer it or not. So first of all, it says that which of the following organization is being referred to in the above paragraph. So we know that the fifth All India Financial Institution that has been established by RBI, it is what? It is NAPFID, right? So C is going to be the correct answer to this question. And you can see it was also covered as a part of the EduTap's course. I have added the snippet over here. Secondly, the organization mentioned in the above passage. So this organization is NAPFID. It is NAPFID. So it is regulated by which of the following entities? So since NAFID is a type of all India financial institutions, so yes, it is regulated by whom? It is regulated by RBI, right? It's a very straightforward question, and again, we had covered it as a part of the course. Now, question number 3. Again, a passage-based question. So Dash is a screen-based electronic anonymous order matching machine of secondary market trading in government securities owned and operated by the RBI. Membership of the system is currently open to entities such as banks, primary dealers, and insurance companies that maintain subsidiary general ledger accounts with the RBI. These entities are designated as primary members of the system and are permitted by the RBI to participate directly. Now, even if you read the passage till here, right? So, and now if you read the question number 3, so question number 3 says which of the following system is being referred to in the above passage. Now, if you know about NDSOM, you can easily mark this answer correctly, right? Because if you talk about NDSOM, over there the passage clearly mentioned regarding it. It says that it's a screen-based electronic anonymous order matching system for secondary market in government securities, and we know that this is a job of NDSOM, and that is why A is going to be the answer to this question. And as you can see, we had covered it as a part of course 2. Secondly, it asks that which of the following executes transaction in NDSOM. Now over here, if I talk about the trades that are executed in NDSOM, they are cleared and settled through what? They are cleared and settled through CCIL, which is Clearing Corporation of India Limited, and that is why B is going to be the correct answer to this question, right? And over here, CCIL acts as a central counterparty, right? And it guarantees the settlement and reduces the counterparty risk as a part of the trade. So that is why B is going to be the correct answer to this question, and you can see we had covered it as a part of the EduTap course. Now the next thing. The next is read the passage given below and answer the following question. Again, a passage was provided, and this passage is related to InvITs. It says that InvITs are investment vehicles designed to facilitate investment in infrastructure assets through a trust structure. They allow developers to monetize completed and revenue generating infrastructure projects while providing investors with a stable income stream. InvITs raise funds from investors and invest primarily in infrastructure assets such as road, power transmission, pipelines, and telecom infrastructure. They are regulated by SEBI and are regulated to and are required to distribute a substantial portion of their cash to unit holders, and InvITs are publicly listed or privately placed, enhancing liquidity and transparency. Now, based on this, if we try to read question number 5, it says in case of public issue of an InvIT, dash of the units are reserved for QIBs and dash for retail investors. Now, based on that, right, it was there as a part of the news. And if you know about it, basically the correct answer to this question is C option, which is 75%. 75% of the units are reserved for QIBs and 10% of the units are there reserved for retail investors, right? And what about the remaining portion, right? The remaining portion is basically allocated to non-institutional investors, right? And I hope you would be knowing about it. It was there as a part of the news, and the question was asked based on that. Now, question number 6, up to dash of the portion available for allocation to institutional investors can be allocated to anchor investors. So basically, it is 60%, up to 60%. If you talk about SEBI regulations, right? So as per SEBI regulation, the InvIT public issues over there, the investors manager that is there on the behalf of InvIT, right? What it can do, it can allocate up to 60% of the institutional investor portion to whom? To basically anchor investor. So that is why D is going to be the correct answer to this question. Now question number 7. Now question number 7 is, I would say, calculation based question. It is from the accountancy part, right? Commerce and accountancy syllabus that is there as a part of your phase 2. So the question is giving us information, different parameters. For example, it provides us reserves, it provides us equity, debt to net worth, asset turnover ratio, and gross profit, right? Which is 30% on sales. So we have to calculate gross profit in absolute numbers. So we know that gross profit is 30% on sales. So in order to calculate gross profit, first of all, we have to calculate the sales over here, right? So let us try to calculate it in a short manner. So first of all, what we are going to do, we are going to calculate the net worth, right? We have to calculate the net worth. And what is net worth? Net worth is equity plus reserves. And what is the equity that has been provided over here? It is 4 lakh, right? So it is going to be 4 lakh over here. Plus, what about reserves? It is basically 6 lakhs. So 4 lakh plus 6 lakh is going to be 10 lakh. This is what? This is the net worth. Now the next thing that is provided to us is debt to net worth ratio, right? So what is debt to net worth ratio? Debt to net worth ratio is 0.5, right? So if I write it over here, debt to net worth ratio, right? Now over here, if you try to calculate debt, right? If you try to calculate debt over here, debt is going to be what? Debt is going to be 0.5 into the net worth that is there, which is basically 0.5 into 10 lakh, right? Because zero debt to net worth ratio is 0.5. So we are multiplying it over here, right? So 0.5 into net worth, which means 0.5 into 10 lakh. If you calculate it, it is going to be around, I would say, 5 lakh, right? It is going to be 5 lakh. Now the next thing is what? We are going to calculate the total assets over here, right? Now what is going to be the total asset? The formula for total asset is net worth plus debt, right? So what is the net worth over here? We have already calculated, it is 10 lakh. And what is the debt? So debt is something that is 5 lakh. We have calculated over here. So it is going to be 5 lakh. So 10 plus 5 is what? It is going to be 15 lakh in this case. Now the next thing that we have to calculate is the sales, right? So how we are going to calculate the sales? Because we know the turnover, so we can use the asset turnover ratio over here, because asset turnover ratio is what? It is equal to sales divided by total assets, right? So over here, what is going to be sales? Sale is going to be asset turnover ratio into total assets. So what is asset turnover ratio? Asset turnover is what? Asset turnover is basically ratio is basically 2 is to 1 in this case. So it is going to be 2. And what is total asset? Total asset we have calculated over here, which is 15 lakh. So 2 into 15 lakh is what? It is going to be 30 lakh, right? So sale is what? Sale is 30 lakh. Now what is given in the question? Question says gross profit is equal to 30% of sales. So we have to calculate, basically, in order to calculate gross profit, we are going to calculate 30% of 30 lakh, which is going to be what? Which is going to be 9 lakh rupees, right? It is going to be 9 lakh rupees. So C is going to be the correct answer to this question. Just give me a second. Please allow me to plug in my charger of the laptop. Just give me a second. Yes. So 9 lakh is going to be what? 9 lakh is going to be the answer to this question. And you can see we had provided you the entire formula. Everything has been presented as a part of uh, this snippet. So shareholder funds, they are often treated as net worth, right? And you can see in the question itself, the shareholder fund were provided, right? Also sort of values were provided to you. And the formula for debt to equity has also been written, right? Which we are going to use in the second question. So based on the above information, what it is the total debt of the company? So if you talk about the total debt of the company, first of all, if I talk about the net worth, right? What is net worth? Equity plus reserves. Now what is equity? If we see it over here, we have already calculated the net worth over here, which was 10 lakh, right? So it is going to be 10 lakh, right? And by the way, we don't have to calculate it. We have already calculated the debt in the above question. If you see it over here, right? What is it? It is debt only. Debt upon net worth is equal to 0.5. So it is already 5 lakh, right? So we have already calculated it. We are not going to calculate it again. So 5 lakh is going to be the answer to this question, which is option C. Then question number 9, that based on the above information, what are the total liabilities of the company, right? So what is the formula for total liabilities? Total liabilities is net worth plus total debt. Now what is net worth? We know, I think it was 10 lakh. Yes, it was 10 lakh. And what is total debt? It is 5 lakh, right? So it is going to be what? Total liabilities is going to be 10 lakh plus 5 lakh, which is going to be what? It is going to be 15 lakh, right? So 15 lakh basically is going to be the answer to this question. This is also equal to the total assets that is in the balance sheet, because total asset was also 15 lakh, right? So that is why C is going to be the answer. And you can see all this information was covered as a part of the course we had provided you, and you can see it in the snippet. Now let us move on to question number 15th. From the finance part. Now over here again they have given you this passage related to banking sector, that Government of India initiated a comprehensive reform process in the financial system during 1992 to 93. Following the recommendation of Committee of the Financial System, as part of the second phase of the reforms, another committee was constituted under the chairman of M. Narasimhan, right? The committee focused on strengthening the banking system through improved regulation, competition, and efficiency. In terms of reference, clearly indicated an emphasis on banking sector reforms, including prudential norms and market-oriented monetary tools. And the committee recommended greater participation of private and foreign banks to enhance competition. Right now, although this is a recreated passage, but in the exam also a similar type of passage was provided. So based on that, if you see the question says which of the following statements are correct with reference to the above passage. So statement number one, we know that first of all we know that the passage is talking about Committee on Banking Sector Reforms, which is also known as Narsiman Committee, Narsiman Committee, right? So this is what the first statement says. It says that the committee referred to in the passage is the Committee on Banking Sector Reform. This is true, right? Then the committee recommended licensing of new private banks, including domestic and foreign banks. This is true because if you talk about post 1991 reforms, right, LPG reforms that happened, and as a part of it, when the banking sector got opened up, so during that period only this Narsiman committee was formed, and it gave recommendation that we need to open up our banking sector. By opening up, we mean to say that we need to promote the entry of private participants too with respect to the banking sector, and we need to open it for the foreign entities also, right, so that the foreign banks can also participate as a part of the banking system. So this is what that was recommended, a liberalized recommendation, right, a liberal recommendation, I would say. And this is also true. Lastly, it says the committee recommended continued resilience on CRR as the primary tool for liquidity management. So over there, you can see, if you know about Narsiman Committee, let me tell you that basically Narsiman Committee did not promote such direct tools of monetary policy, right? What it did, it basically recommended that we need to shift away from direct instruments, for example, CRR, right, or SLR, and we need to move towards indirect market-based tools for the liquidity management. For example, liquidity management tool that is there. So based on that, this statement is incorrect, but because this connotes the opposite sense, it says that the committee recommended continued resilience on CRR as the primary tool for liquidity management. This is wrong, because this committee recommended what? It basically emphasized upon the liquid adjustment facility, which includes what? Which includes tools like repo rate, right? So this is something that was emphasized, and I hope it is clear to you. And based on that, B is going to be the correct answer to this question. Now, question number 16, Dash was introduced on the recommendation of Narsiman Committee to manage liquidity through indirect monetary policy instruments. Now, over here, this is something that I have told you just in the previous question only, that Narsiman Committee recommended this liquidity adjustment facility, right? And based on that, C is going to be the correct answer to this question, right? It is going to be the correct answer to this question. And this liquidity adjustment facility includes what? It includes the repo rate and reverse repo rate, right? This is something that is included. These operations are included, and these operations were recommended by the Narsiman Committee. So that is why C is going to be the correct answer to this question. Now, question number 17. What is the name of the curve that shows an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment? Now, this is a very basic question. If you have read the basic aspects related to inflation, you could have attempted it very comfortably. And yes, Phillips curve is going to be the answer to this question. And you can see we had also provided it as a part of the course, and direct snippet you can see over here. Now, the next one. The next one is another passage which is related to MSMEs. So it says that MSMEs plays a crucial role in India's economic development by contributing significantly to employment, exports, and industrial output. Despite their importance, MSMEs often face challenge related to delayed payments and limited access to formal credit. And to address these issues, digital platforms have been introduced to improve liquidity and working capital availability. One such mechanism enables MSMEs trade their to discount their trade receivables online in a transparent manner. Now, this line is the main keyword. One such mechanism enables MSMEs to discount their trade receivable online in a transparent manner, right? And these platforms connect MSMEs to sellers, buyers, and financiers to facilitate invoice-based financing. The system reduces dependence on collateral-based lending and improves cash flow for small businesses. It also promotes financial inclusion and strengthens supply chain financing. The platform operates under a regulated framework to ensure safety, transparency, and efficiency. Now, what this platform is, right? This is what this question asks. So the question says that threads a digital platform. So this platform that has been mentioned over here, where such mechanism is provided so that MSMEs, they can go for invoice based financing, they can sell their invoices, and in return they can avail the finance from the financiers as a part of the threads platform, right? This happens as a part of the threads platform. So if you see the question says threads platform enables MSMEs to discount their invoice, is regulated and controlled by which authority, right? Now, if I talk about trust platform, you would be knowing that it is regulated by whom? It is regulated by RBI. Why is it so? Because it is dealing with invoicing, right? Invoicing and also sort of payment mechanism, and that is why it is basically regulated by RBI. You can say it is acting as a alternative source of finance over here, right? And that is why it is going to be regulated and operated by RBI. And you can see we had provided this information also as a part of the course. Then it says, which reference to trades consider the following statement. Sorry, with reference to the trades consider the following statements. So trades enables MSMEs to obtain liquidity by facilitating the discounting of trade receivables arising from sales to corporate and government buyers through an electronic platform. Now, this is true. This is the objective behind trades. And the platform addresses the issue of delayed payments to MSMEs by allowing multiple financiers to bid on invoices except by buyers. And this is also true, right? This is also true because if, for example, if a certain type of MSME is there, it has collected a lot of invoices, right? The payment has not been made yet. So what it can do, it can sell these invoices over this trades platform, right? And it can basically avail the immediate cash that it is looking for, right? And this is what happens over here, where multiple financiers, they are going to bid on invoices, they are going to purchase your invoices, and they're going to make you the payments. Now, TREDS entities are recognized as market infrastructure institutions. Now, this is not true. Market infrastructure institutions, they have been recognized by SEBI. But I told you when we talk about TREDS, it's a RBI regulated institution, right? So that is why this information is not correct at all. This is an incorrect information, right? So it is not recognized as infrastructure institutions. That are regulated by SEBI, but they are regulated by whom? They are regulated by RBI. So that is why this is not true. So 1 and 2, B is going to be the correct answer to this question. And you can see we had covered it as a part of the course. Now the next one, question number 20. Which of the following correctly describe the settlement mechanism under trades? So option A, settlement of funds on trades is carried out through RBI regulated payment and settlement systems. MSME receives only MSMEs receive payment only on the invoice due date, not at the time of discounting. Now, this is something that is not true, right? This is an incorrect information, right? And financiers recover funds directly from MSMEs in case of buyer's default. This is again, which is not correct. Then settlement timelines on trades are determined by mutual agreement between MSMEs and financiers. This is again, that is not true. And trades operates outside the formal financial system to reduce regulatory burden. This is completely untrue because we know it is a part of formal financial system, right? So what is going to be the correct answer to this question? It is going to be option A, right? Because if I talk about trades, basically over here the transactions, they are settled through RBI regulated RBI regulated payment system, right? And the framework reduces counterparty risk and it strengthens the trust among MSMEs and the buyers, right? But these sort of things that MSMEs receive payment only on the invoice due date, this is not true at all, right? This is not true at all, because the payment is received at the time of discounting, right? So discounting, so that is why this option B is going to be incorrect, and I hope it is clear to you. Now we are done with all the questions that were asked as a part of the finance, and I hope it is clear to you. And now let me tell you that how EduTap can help you as a part of your preparation. So basically you have to go to a website which is edutap.in, and if you go to the courses section, which is RBI Grade B courses, over here you can see that we provide these gold and silver courses. If you're targeting 2027 examination, you can look into it and you can go for the 2-day demo course also if you want to see that whether the course suits your requirement or not. So you can go for this 2-day demo gold course, and based on that you can decide that whether you want to purchase it or not, right? So I hope it is clear to you, and that is it from my end. Thank you so much and all the best.